Morena Stewart. I'm just going to click go live on all the places where I need to go live. I'm hoping we're coming live to you on all the right platforms. But if we're not, don't blame me, blame the tech. It ain't my fault. I'm doing my best. Happy Neurodiversity Celebration Week to you, wherever you are. You may be from all over the world, and it's really great to see wherever you're from. We can see your chat, hopefully. I think we can. Yeah, we can. Let me turn on the chat. Yay! So we can see your chat. Tell us where you're from. We'd love to know. We've got guests here. And hooray, we've got our lovely friend Dan coming in late too. Fantastic. So great to see you.
No.
So we've got an awesome panel. Panel, if you could pop yourselves on mute when you're not talking, that would be great, just so we can manage the noise. And please feel free to move around, jump about, whatever you feel you need to do. Please feel comfortable, because we need to do that right as ND folk. So happy Neurodiversity Celebration Week to you, 2024. There are lots of events this week, lots of official ones. I was doing an official one yesterday. But I was kind of, you know what? I love Neurodiversity Celebration Week, but it's not always about the celebration. Sometimes it's about the stuff that needs to be different and better and improve in the world. And yes, that's all important and valid and really important. And we all know that. But I wanted to do something that was a true celebration of us and our brilliance and our talents, while acknowledging that sometimes life is difficult, because we know it is. We know we don't want the Pollyanna, everything's perfect, but we don't want to focus on the negatives all the time either. So it's a bit of a balance. So that's what today is hopefully about neurodivergent creativity and innovation. And rather than me yapping on, I thought it'd be lovely to introduce some people who maybe don't have so much of a chance to talk and to talk about their creativity, their innovation. We've got a lovely panel of people, all of whom I'm very fond of. Absolute darlings, all of you in your own ways. I just love our ND community. It's so cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go alphabetically, just because I couldn't think of any more imaginative way of doing it than that. And we're going to go to each person in turn. So we've got Ben Van Hook. Ben is an ADHD, autistic plus ADHD, disability rights activist who talks on education and reform, universal design, intersectionality, strengths-based approaches, and the like. When he's not advocating, Ben is a pianist and a poet, and he writes about topics like social anxiety, depression, masking, education, and autism. So some really valid topics. So I wanted to ask each person as we go along, what is it about your creativity, do you think, Ben, that's different? What do you bring to the world in terms of your creativity and your innovation?
I think because there's a lot of additional barriers that I encountered as a neurodivergent person. I might express or I might feel different emotions differently from the neuromajority. I might feel a lot more anxiety, for example, and I might also struggle with like fidgeting, keeping my legs still. I might also have experienced a lot of other challenges that the neuromajority not have might not have experienced before. So a lot of my poems come from a neurodivergent mindset and an intersectional mindset as well, because I'm also Asian, I'm also Jewish, and have experienced a lot of racism, a lot of discrimination, xenophobia in the past. The way my autism and ADHD play into my writing style is that I always have a bunch of ideas. I have ideas shooting left, right, and center, and sometimes it can be really difficult to organize my ideas, organize what phrases, what stanzas I want to include when, how to like phrase different things, and that can really be a challenge because I just have so many things going on and off. But a lot of my poems I write within 30, 40 minutes. I write a few poems about social anxiety. One of them was comparing social anxiety to a car and driving, and not really knowing where I'm going, but hoping that I end up in the right destination safely. I use a lot of different metaphors, like I compare driving as like a dance with a lot of strangers we don't know. We don't really know how close we're going to get. We might make people uncomfortable unconsciously, subconsciously, and we might encounter different challenges within our communication styles, similar to cars, where some cars might get a bit too close to you. some cars might be unpredictable in their movements. Some cars might also cut you off, just like someone might cut you off in a conversation. So I use a lot of different analogies to kind of share the similarities between driving and social anxiety. I also write poems about masking. There was one about that was related to Halloween, and it was called The Mask of Mona Lisa. And the point of that poem was to show that sometimes neurotypicals might see people as prettier or more beautiful when we're masking instead of accepting us for our true selves. And I just use the metaphor of Halloween to describe my experience with masking and just how heartbreaking and disappointing it is that people are more afraid of my true authentic self than me with my actual mask on. I just expressed the heartbreak in that realization through that poem. And aside from poetry, I also play the piano, and I've learned piano when I was 5 and took lessons till I was 13. Then I decided I didn't want to play Beethoven anymore. Decided to go my own way and play my own things. And as a neurodivergent, I was masking all the time in school, at home, and to play piano was a way of unmasking and being my true self. Playing as loud as I could, playing whatever I could, whenever I wanted to, was just a great release from just having to mask every single day at school, every single minute in the household. So I think playing music, writing poetry, and expressing myself through art is a really good way, and was a really good way of unmasking and just being able to express myself how I wanted to be seen to myself and to the world.
Beautiful. You've picked up some really interesting themes there, that sometimes creativity comes from actually quite a difficult place, but it can have this amazing kind of outcome. But also that it's a sort of an antidote and a way to unmask and be our true selves and, express those kinds of things, which is lovely. And I heard you playing on social media the other day one of my favorite songs, Leonard Cohen's Alleluia, which was just so beautiful and so moving and such a profound song anyway. And to hear you play that is incredibly cool. So where can we find you on social media and the work that you do, Ben?
I'm mostly active on LinkedIn under my name, Ben Van Hook. And the profile picture is me presenting at the College Autism Summit, and on screen is me presenting about Universal Design for Learning. And then I have a TikTok channel that I just created I think about a month and a half ago, and it's just Ben Van Hook ADHD. And I just post a lot of disability-related content on there. I wanted to get into TikTok so I can just be able to express myself through more different means. I also wanted to become more accessible and more inclusive, because I realize if I'm just like writing different posts, I'm not really reaching audiences that are that learn better through listening or through seeing people act things out or show things. So I feel like going on TikTok was a good step when it comes to inclusivity.
Yeah, really good point. And thinking about so many forms and flavors of being neurodivergent, some people just aren't going to read a lot of stuff. So visual stuff is going to reach people really well. We literally got a few minutes per person, so thank you so much, Ben, for that. It was absolutely beautiful. We've got my lovely Dan. You are next. We're just going alphabetically. So Dan, I'll give you an intro to you. Dan Graham is a theatre director and a disability advocate with a particular interest in access support for neurodiverse or neurodivergent performing artists. Dan is ND himself with, as he describes on his website, neurological challenges that impact his daily life, including his creative ability. So Dan, huge welcome to you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about your creativity, how you express your unique ND creativity.
I always make this statement, and first of all, Marina, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity, because it is very funny that literally only Monday night, Australian time, I'm actually, as you know, the chair for Artists with a Disability Committee for MEAA, which is a performing arts union here in Australia. And it was very interesting that there was many different forms of diversity, but in that diversity, literally, it just happened, most of those people on the panel were neurodivergent, which was quite interesting. So I don't know how it turned out, but it had, people from a trans experience culturally diverse, race, etc. And but it wasn't meant to be a neurodiverse panel. It was about diversity generally. And I thought it was very interesting that the reason why I went into theatre in the first place a million years ago as a kid was I am very fortunate, and I appreciate this. I come from a family, my mum has very much been supportive of my journey, my way to express myself, whatever you want to call it. And she didn't necessarily thought it was going to be a theatre director in the end of it, but she literally tried to find an outlet because I'm maybe a bit older than Ben. I'm of a generation of when I finished school in the late 90s, that literally people, and obviously we can still appreciate it now, do not understand neurodiversity. I was either seen as the weird person, the stupid person, and they're just the polite ones that I can mention in this context. And I was sent to acting classes, basically, and people laugh when I say this, to get me out of my shell, because literally when you've been told or bullied, not just from your fellow students, but by teachers, you know, you really don't have much place to express yourself. And it was very interesting that I had always been interested in theatre, and looking at it, it was probably a way that I was able to see not myself, but necessarily other stories. And I've always been interested from a very young age about what makes people tick. And it was very important to me when I ended up starting my master's in directing. And as I've said to you privately, and I'm happy to say here, Rowena, I'm in a situation that literally before I actually, while I did do my master's, it was actually a very discriminating experience. And ironically, that goes back to what, as you know, I've been awarded a Churchill Fellowship, which some people in the UK may be aware of, which is specifically to investigate access for professional performing artists who are neurodiverse, because I'm not trying to put everyone in the same grouping, but from my experience, a lot of neurodiverse performing artists that I know, and Ben mentioned it himself just a moment ago, are very good at masking, which you could say make the best performers, you know.
Absolutely.
And it was very important that literally in terms of like research that and I'm also writing a book, as you know, based on interviews with professional artists who are neurodiverse as well, that basically in this whole, and I'm talking about Australia here, so I don't know what it's like in the UK. I will find out in a couple of weeks' time, as we all know. But, you know, I find it very distressing that basically I literally am still referred to, and I don't mean this as a compliment, but I do wear my neurodiversity as a badge, as being the neurodivergent director. And how do we get past it? Ironically, the work that I'm attracted to as a director, for one way or another, and this was talking to a psychologist friend of mine very early on in my career, deals with the outsider. And obviously, you don't have to be Freud to read too much into that. And it was just like, how do we try to create a safe space, you know, for fellow neurodivergent artists? And the sad thing is, a lot of my experiences, even in the industry now, and I'm talking about in my university training, is still happening today now too. And it's my hope that we can just be, as I always say, and you know this, Maureen, I always refer to myself, the final line of Elephant Man is, I'm just a man. I say I'm just Dan. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Dan. And apologies for people that the picture is jumping around. I'm just learning the technology to do this. So technology is not my strong point. Let me see if I can come back on screen there. So thank you so much, Dan. And I'm just wondering if there's anything you want to add about, you know, how people can find you.
Oh, sorry. Of course.
Tell us where we can find you.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, I can be found just under my name of Dan Graham. And if you find University of Sydney, chances are that's me. And that's where, ironically, I did my honours after my master's, which is a whole conversation in itself. I can also be found by LinkedIn, and it's quite interesting, again, thinking of, as we're talking now, it's literally a picture of an eye. And I was very inspired because I deliberately didn't post a photo of myself on LinkedIn. And if people know of Anshu Andalou, a short film by Louis Benuel, I think it's very much a metaphor of basically just what I'm talking now. And finally, I can be contacted, and it doesn't need to be updated somewhat, but via my personal work website, which is all lowercase Dan Graham, that's DANGRAHAM.com.au, and there's a contact feature there. So I look forward to hearing from people, and hopefully, if they're fellow people, not just you, Moretta, we can catch up with when I'm in London between mid-April, mid-May. Contact me,
Brilliant.
please.
Thanks so much, Dan. And really love some of the work you've been doing, and what we were talking about, the kinds of directing that you're interested in and maybe being drawn to some of the darker subjects. And I wonder if that's a bit of a feature of neurodiversity or neurodivergence, and maybe others will pick up on that. Thank you so much. So next up, we've got Grant Stewart. Grant is a true neurodivergent polymath. He's a published novelist, medical journalist, musician and songwriter, playwright and director. He's now focusing on his painting, still lifes and commissions, available for commissions. And a less known fact about Grant is that we share a son between us. We share our boy. So a huge welcome to you, Grant. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. So tell us about your neurodivergent creativity, what you love, what you hate, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of almost always found myself driven to be involved in some kind of creative endeavor. And I don't think it won't surprise anyone here, because I have this theory that most, if not all, creativity in anyone, not just neurodiverse people, comes from a place of discomfort. It's not going to come from a place of solid mental health. Now, what we or I would bring that's different is, we have that sense of alienation built in. Mm-hmm. So we're born with that creative advantage, if you like, that sense of discomfort and alienation and things to write or create about already. I mean, I read something just the other day that I really liked and seemed to go along with what I've always thought, which was that artists of any kind don't value themselves very highly. So they create in order to add value to themselves, which supposedly should make them more worthy of esteem, love, etc., because they don't value themselves very highly on their own. And I think that applies to everyone, not just neurodivergent people. And I wouldn't know. I mean, where is that damage coming from in other people? I don't know. It's not my business. But I do think it's almost like creativity is a constant process of trying to put band-aids on a wound that isn't going to heal. But you're constantly kind of doing a bit of a temporary job, like a dodgy kind of pothole repair on a road.
You know about that in the UK. Yeah,
the road's still broken. And I think even, you might look at someone like Ed Sheeran and say, well, I don't see how his art comes from a place of darkness or damage or any kind of psychological suffering. But the guy obviously has a really deep need of approval. Now, if that's not representative of some kind of issue, I don't know what is. So I mean, what's different than what I do compared to a neurotypical artist? I suppose, I mean, it goes back to what Ben was saying. Ben's written a lot of poetry about these issues. A lot of my songwriting is about these issues, although probably not in a recognizable way, but it makes for material which I think is much more inward looking and self-focused, which shouldn't surprise anyone. But I mean, I would look at a songwriter like Mark Knopfler, who can write a song about an 18th century farmer or a 19th century coal miner. And I think what he does is wonderful, but I could never do it. I couldn't focus on that external story. Whenever I am inspired to write something, it's because something has triggered a feeling of discomfort in me, which I then have to sort of exorcise, or something has triggered a really cool line about a feeling of discomfort, which I then have to write down before I forget it. I mean, but it has its pros and cons, and on the positive side, it gives me the focus to be able to sit in a recording studio for hours on end alone and do what I need to do. or to paint alone and do what I need to do. On the sort of downside, I mean, if I hear anyone else describe their autism as their superpower, I'm going to jump out my window.
Scream. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand that. When you in your opening you talked about balance. Balance is the absolute key. It's all balance. That the Lord hath given and taken away, and we have to live with this very difficult, awkward balance all the time. And I don't feel part of a community. I don't feel part of a neurodivergent community or any community. I'm not a joiner of communities. I don't want to be, but I'm still part of a community, whether I want to be or not. and still one of this bunch of people dealing with the same issues. I just deal with them in a different way. At the moment, I'm dealing with them by painting still lifes in which objects that I found in junk shops become characters in little dramas. And that's what they mean to me. Other people might just think it's a bunch of apples in a vase, but that's what they said about Cézanne.
Thank you, Grant. Yeah, and you picked up, issues we've talked about in so much depth before, and thank you. I'm just thinking where you would like to kind of refer people, your socials, where they can find you. You're in several great places to find.
My books are out of print. that was a long time ago. I'd like to thank the 6 people who bought them. No. You can find my music on Bandcamp under my name, Grant Stewart. My art, you can see that on Instagram, again under my name, or on Saatchi Art. Some of it's on Saatchi Art. I have to apologize for Saatchi Art. I don't find it a very good website.
Not user-friendly.
I didn't say that, Mr. Saatchi.
We love you, Mr. Saatchi. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Grant. Interesting perspectives as ever. And that feeling of alienation, even though we know we are of a group, I think a lot of us will actually share. So thank you for that. So we're moving on to Kate Arms. Kate is one of 2 co-founders of Neurodiversity Coaching Academy with Tracy, who we'll hear from later. Kate's coaching work combines expertise in the psychology of innovation and creativity. So she'll be able to tell us the head shrinking stuff behind all of this, and culture building with systems to support change that sticks. So fascinating. So Kate, tell us about your creativity. What do you bring that's different, that's unique?
So thank you. So I mean, I think creativity is a natural human condition. I think that we are, in fact, wired, all of us, to play with our environments and to learn from playing with our environments. And lots of playing is putting things together in a variety of ways, whether it's ideas or things or images or metaphors. And we all develop a whole bunch of skills around what we can do with that impulse to play with things and put things together. I describe to myself most often my own sort of neurodivergence, my own sort of sense of like what is up with my brain, using language that I borrow from the theory of positive disintegration, describe overexcitabilities, which simply refers to the fact that I take in a lot of data, a lot of nuance about the sensory data in the world. So lots of sensitivity to how things look and how things feel, and how things sound, not so much how they taste and how they smell, and a lot of kinesthetic data, a lot of proprioceptive data. And I take in so much and get sort of such a big response to it that I can't process it through my logical, linear, break things down into small parts processing. I have to take it in as a gestalt, as a whole, and work with it holistically. And so I collect frameworks for thinking about big picture things, whatever they are. And in all sorts of arenas, because everything that I get interested in, I play with, and I look for other people's frameworks to help me make sense of it. And actually what I do and where my creativity comes in is that I see the patterns between frameworks in lots of different disciplines. So the thing that I've been really, really interested in since I was a kid is, how is it that people who are so different from each other work together in groups, communities, organizations that also have to thrive sort of as a whole? And that balance between like the bigger collective has to work and the individuals have to work. I'm really interested in like, how do we get most of those, how do we build the system so the system thrives and most of the people inside thrive? And I figured out early on that meant that I needed to understand how people tick. And if I understand how people tick, that's got like an organizational setting, a political setting, a psychological setting, neurobiology, art and language and communication skills, all feed into this question about how do we build so that the individual and the group actually thrive together. And so my creativity is like, how do I build the biggest framework that I can think of that captures the most of that? And every time I learn something new, I add it to my framework and I change my framework so that I can fit everything in, because it's too much data to actually put all of the pieces together. So for instance, in the coaching work and the coach training work that Tracy and I are doing with the Neurodiversity Coaching Academy, I'm actually bringing in things that I have learned in somatics and dance and psychology and social anthropology, rites of passage, like the history of theater as a way of doing community building, religious traditions, and rites of passage all at once.
Wow.
In there, right? Like, so I'm putting all of these pieces and then coming to one problem to solve, which is, how do we train coaches to actually be able to coach whoever shows up in front of them without needing to be the same in the way that we process as somebody else, and without putting people into boxes that are too narrow, and making assumptions about how their brains and bodies and their embodied cognition work in the settings that they find themselves in. So it's a little wild living in my head.
We get it. Yep.
And it's really bouncing back and forth between this really big picture thinking, and then, okay, what's something that I can actually use right now to make this person thrive more, this community thrive more, the whole system thrive more. And I live in the spaces between parts of people and the people next to them, people in organizations and the other organizations next to them, more comfortably than I live in the specific details. Yeah, it's
wow.
wild.
Well, that's my mind completely blown for the day from all of you. So where do I go from that? My God. So tell us where we can find you, your work, your socials, your websites.
Yeah, so the couple of websites that I will point you to is for people who are interested in how this collection of things might actually help you personally. katearms.com is my personal coaching website. If there are people who are coaching out there who are interested in sort of how to apply this to helping other people through coaching modality, Tracy and I can be found at the neurodiversitycoachingacademy.com website. And if you just want a glimpse in how my brain works, find me on LinkedIn at Kate Arms Coach, and I post musings and mulling overs of things on LinkedIn.
We love musings and mullings over, and we love noodlings. We did a noodling recently, didn't we, Kate and Tracy? Yes. Which was really interesting, just noodling and seeing where our brains took us, all sorts of weird and wonderful places, and we love it. Thank you, Kate. Fascinating. I mean, you're all so different and so interesting. I could talk with any one of you all day. So let's move on. Next one up, we've got the lovely Kondwa Rain. Beautiful name, I have to say. Kondwa is an ADHD virtual assistant and efficiency expert, and my God, I could do with some of that. She takes neurodivergent entrepreneurs from stress to success. So you're using your talents in a different way again. So tell us, Kondwa, what makes you creative? How do you use your ND creativity differently?
Hi. I want to say that, like Grant was talking about earlier, just the nature of creativity. I mean, I like to say I agree with it a little bit, that the nature of creativity does come from discomfort. you know. But I would also love to say, I think the nature of creativity definitely comes from a yearning for connection. I feel like creative people in general are conduits. Do you know what I mean? Like we are tapped into the wider world around us, and it is also a way for us to expand our communication, you know, for those of us who are not great with words, but maybe we're good with, you know, with visuals. That's where painting and design comes in. For those of us who are better in song, that's where the music side comes in. So I think at the heart of it, it is a searching for connection. It is trying to express our inner workings, our how, you know, what we take in from the world around us. So that's, I guess that's my more optimistic view of what creativity actually is. And I think as a neurodiverse person, as a neurodivergent person, somebody with ADHD, I think it has mostly lent itself very well to that, because I feel like my brain works very quickly. Sometimes it feels like it's a supercomputer, and I am just, I would say, a whiz at like solving problems in, you know, different ways, thinking outside of the box. Like I was telling you that the time that we were moving to this new apartment that me and my partner were living in, we had no time to get the permits to get a real moving truck. So after I had a bit of a panic and a cry, I was like, okay, what can we do here? And I basically engaged the services of a delivery service that like moves heavy goods. And I said, can you get our large furniture to our new apartment, and then we'll do the small stuff? And that is how we ended up moving with about, I think, 3 days notice.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorite parts of the way my ADHD brain works. Like we said, it's not always fun and games, is it? Do you know what I mean? The other side of the coin is not so good. The executive dysfunction, the emotional dysregulation. But I think there is something to be approached with curiosity in those as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes it's like our brains are trying to tell us something or lead us away from something, you know. Maybe we didn't overreact at that slight. Maybe there is something we're picking up on, but it's like it's dialed up to 11. So we are very sensitive people as
Yep.
well. So yeah, I write a lot. I do tend to mask quite heavily in everyday life. I mean, I'm trying to learn that there's, you know, the whole unmasking bit going on, but I tend to unmask a lot easier when it's just me and like a piece of paper and my own words. And that has actually really helped with unmasking and just stripping back and getting back to the, you know, the roots of who I actually am as a person outside of, you know, societal expectations. So I journal, I write fiction. I'm so bad at promoting myself. I actually have a free guide for ADHD people who have ADHD, you know, celebrating the good aspects and learning how to cope with the more difficult aspects of ADHD. I do have a free guide available through my LinkedIn profile, and I just wrote that as, you know, a love letter to my community, because my background, from where I'm from, the way I grew up, it wasn't very supportive of mental health issues. So I didn't even know anything about ADHD until I was in my 20s, and I didn't get diagnosed until my late 20s. So I did create that guide just as I see you, you know, you are not alone, we are doing this together kind of thing. So I did do that, and it is available through my LinkedIn page. And yes, so I am an ADHD virtual assistant, and I help neurodivergent people and business owners kind of streamline their operations. I have proclaimed myself an efficiency expert because I'm always looking for ways to streamline things. I'm always like, is there an easier way? Can we automate something? How can we take this off your plate so that you're not, you know, devoting so much brain time to it? Because I also know how stressful it can be, being an entrepreneur, running your own business and trying to keep up with the back end of it, when what you really want to do is, you know, shout to the world about what you do and actually get to do it. And I deal with the behind the scenes stuff that essentially keep entrepreneurs from doing what they love and actually what makes them money, from unclogging inboxes to wrangling calendars. I do comms with clients, I build CRMs, I build and maintain websites, just anything that's within my power to do or within my power to learn. I do support neurodivergent clients with that, because as I said, I want to be the support that I didn't have. I know very acutely the feeling of just being so overwhelmed. Like, you have such a passion and you have something that you want to do, but you are just so overwhelmed. And I want to be the person that reaches out a hand and gets you off the couch. You know what I mean?
That's amazing, and your services are so valued. You're truly doing God's work, I tell you. And I'm looking for somebody who does that at the moment. But you're one of those people who are so busy, which is obviously testament to the fact that you're brilliant. That you're not free, which is quite frustrating.
At the moment, my books will be opening up later in the year, so I will be opening up. So we will definitely keep in touch about that.
And we can find you on all the socials. Is there any ones you want to promote particularly?
I have my website, rainvirtualadmin.com. I have my LinkedIn, which is, you know, my primary platform for engaging with other businesses and just the neurodivergent community in general. I also have an Instagram, which is rarely used, but my LinkedIn has links to all of those things. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you so much, and please feel free to put them in the chat, everybody who's speaking today, so people can find you. You know, get your messages out there. Condoy, you really are doing amazing work. Thank you so much, and it's so interesting how you use that creativity to make other people's lives better. So thank you for that. Moving on next to Lavinia, the lovely Lavinia. Lavinia Dowling is a mental health entrepreneur. She supports young ND people and adults in innovative ways where, for example, other therapies haven't worked, like CBT, for example. She helps them repair their self-esteem and recover their mental health very quickly, because we know that can be a sticking point. So, Lavinia, tell us, how do you use your creativity?
Well, thank you for having me. I got really excited when I realised that I was going to be surrounded by others who have become incredibly creative, very much enhanced by their neurodiversity, because quite often we talk about it in a very negative way. So I suppose, like many neurodiverse people, I spent a childhood full of anxiety and low mood, and it got to a very difficult, challenging stance when I was in my middle teens. And I had somebody who kind of seemed to twig that something wasn't quite right with me and said, you know, there is so much just waiting for you out there. You just need to go and find it. Go and find your tribe. Go and find what really gets you out of bed in the morning, and kind of gave me a very different sort of perspective. And I literally mental health nurse training, thinking I'm absolutely useless. I'm never going to get very far with this, and I'm absolutely awful at exams. There is just no way I'm going to get through it. And absolutely discovered, well, it's been a love affair ever since I started, and it continues to be a love affair. I met with a colleague who I'd worked with 20 years ago, and he said, my goodness, you are still so passionate and enthusiastic about what you do. And I do feel that neurodiverse individuals are very passionate about what they do. It's part of this sort of ambience and exuberance that they provide. And I do feel that we are very, very creative. I love the fact that actually when we find our passion, we seem to either bore people rigid because we're going on and on about it, but actually there are other people who are, hey, I really connect with that and I really want to know more about that and tell me more. And well, then they've just given you a step up to your soapbox, really.
Yeah, more full them.
When I have clients who come to me, they're very broken usually, with school education, communities not understanding their needs, horrific anxiety, spiraling anxiety. And I somehow have this skill set where I am able to translate in a way that neurodiverse people really connect with, probably because I'm neurodiverse myself, but I think also with my many years of experience, rather than just sitting in one farrow with mental health, I looked at every single field of mental health: older adults, dementia, Huntington's, addictions, as well as the sort of very classic styles of mental illness, such as schizophrenia or bipolar. And because of that, I'm quite unique in that I never get bored, never ever. And to my ADHD brain, to be bored would just be horrendous. But because people are so interesting, because they're so varied and so diverse, I am never ever bored. But I have a very quick ability to kind of assess a situation and support a person. And the one thing that I really found really quite strange was that quite often people are made to fit a style of therapy, which is really not helpful to them. And what I found was that it didn't matter who I worked with, low self-esteem. So I've been back to university several times now, and I'm just about to complete a doctorate, showing how important it is to repair our self-esteem, and then that will naturally put our mental health immunity back in good order so that we can then recover from low mood, anxiety. And it's just a lovely way, because it means that the client is able to look at therapy in a way that works for them. It's all about them. It's not about the therapy model. It's all about them. And quite often I'll say to people, you will be discharging me before you know it. And they go, no, I really need you. I've been looking for you for a long time. And then before they know it, they go, actually, do you know what? I really don't need you. I mean, I want to spend time with you, but I really don't need you. I'm good to go. I really want to just take my life back. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and join, be able to see how vast and varied we all are. But definitely we have something that's very exciting.
Oh, that's amazing. And do you want to tell us where you can be found, social media, websites, and so on, Lavinia? And do pop them in the chat, everybody, as well.
Thank you. I will. So we are known as the M Word, cic.co.uk. So that's our website. But you can also find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We have a very good sized community group on Facebook. So you can either find me directly by my name, Lavinia Dowling, or by the M Word, CIC.
Wonderful. The M Word. So that's a good one. That's other people may not be able to. If you want to give me messages in our private chat for our panelists, it doesn't seem to be working that they can post messages in the chat. So thank you for letting me know that. We'll make sure we get all of those into the chat so everybody can see them. Thank you, Lavinia. Again, God's work. I mean, really, mental health and low self-esteem. If we don't all have issues with that, I'll eat my hat, right? Yeah, really important work. Thank you. Next up, we have, again, the very lovely, you're all the very lovely, but you're also the very lovely Dr. Shah Siddiqui. Shah's PhD is in artificial intelligence, which I'm very interested in at the moment. And he's CEO of several companies, one of which, Neurodivergent Business Consortium, CIC, a KIC, a community interest and company, works in the field of promoting neurodiversity in business and all sorts of very interesting things that you can tell us more about. So Shah, how do you bring your creativity to what you do in life, your neurodivergent creativity?
Thank you, Marana. It's my pleasure to talk to you. I also run a NVC live events every Tuesday, so people can watch my events and as well as can join. So from my childhood, you probably see my face that I'm from Southeast Asia and born brought up in Bangladesh. So my childhood wasn't straightforward. I always refer to my childhood because who I am now, based on my experiences, struggles, and all combined together, I'm now. So I had a very tough childhood, but I was intelligent, but I did not know that I'm neurodivergent. But my mother helped me to reach all my struggles. And later in life, I had a brain tumor, so that's also added extra layers on my struggles. But as a neurodivergent person, I wasn't quitting what I was doing. I was very, I wouldn't say aggressive, but headstrong that if I am taking an assignment, I have to complete it. And in a highest stage, and struggled and then finalized it, and then, you know, take that one in a different stage, and then people would support me. So my creativity was my experience that I have gone through with my life and developments. So all my educations, getting PhD, and then working with neurodivergent community. So I'm working with neurodivergent community for so long now, supporting this community, and to guide them through, like, okay, if you have some problems, that not end of your life. That is my strength, because you will have problems, and we all have problems, but how we can tackle that problem with our creativity and work towards it to support individuals, um, and then you will be successful. Yes, I know that neurodivergent people, their brain works three-dimensional. When I talk to non-typical person, they just squeeze their eyes that how a neurodivergent person can work three-dimensionals. I said, okay, you don't understand it, because only the neurodivergent people, they can understand that how our brain works, because we can work 10 times faster than a neurotypical person, and we can see things differently than other people can't. So that's the way that our brain works. So when a neurodivergent person, they will work with confidence and strategy, they will get succeed. So that's why you see me working in many fields and supporting individuals through my knowledge and through my work.
Wonderful.
So thank you.
Wonderful. And you're also on boards of lots of different companies, so you've got fingers in lots of different pies, haven't you? So you express your, by the sounds of it, your creativity and innovation
Mhm.
within business.
Yes, yes. So whatever I have achieved so far, as I said, I'm a strategist. So anything I do, I would have a strategy, short term, mid term, and long term. So with that strategy, I help individuals, specifically neurodivergent or neurotypical business owners, to succeed in their business and education.
Fantastic, and very, very important work. Do you want to tell us about your how we can get in touch with you, your socials, your
Yes,
websites,
you
and so on?
can. Yeah, you can touch with me through LinkedIn. If you write Dr. Shah Siddiqui, you will find me. You will find all of my work that I do. I do regular lives. So if you search on Google, you also can find me. Through Facebook, you can find me. I'm in all social media. Specifically, I have a marketing company where I do regular marketing programs. So you will find me. If you write Dr. Shah Siddiqui, you will find me anywhere in the technology space.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shal. That was really interesting as well. And I mean, we don't like to think of neurodiversity or neurodivergence as just being about, getting us into the capitalist world and fueling that capitalist train. But there's no doubt about it that, as you say, our brains work pretty damn fast. We can be more productive than other people. That's not the only reason to hire us and get us on board, of course, but it is very important as well. And last, but by no means least, last alphabetically is Tracy Winter. Tracy, I met at a conference last year. She's a PhD and PCC level coach. She's a neurodiversity coach and the second co-founder of Neurodiversity Coaching Academy, along with Kate. Tracy specializes in coaching what we call twice exceptional adults, particularly ADHDers, and it's a client group she loves because of the creative problem solving that clients bring to coaching, as we know. So, Kate, over to you. Sorry, Tracy. Tracy, over to you. Tell us about your creativity, your neurodivergent creativity. How do you express that?
So first of all, thank you for calling me Kate. That's a lovely compliment. If you get us confused, it's delightful. She's not here to hear that, but it's true. Hey, y'all. Yeah, so I love this question and I love this conversation. I so enjoy listening to everyone else's versions of how they approach this. To me, I have a couple of different things that come to mind. I think my early neurodivergent creativity was served by dance lessons that my mom put me in when I was 3 years old because she was not allowed to have dance lessons due to finances when she was a kid. But what this did was actually that creativity and the work and the technique and that kind of thing really grounded my body in a way that I think a lot of us neurodivergent folks really need some sort of bodily practice in order to sort of balance us out, which then allows for more creativity to come out. Nowadays, I still think in dance metaphors a lot. Kate and I actually have that in common. And you'll hear us talking about that a little bit if you come to one of our Neurodiversity Coaching Academy classes. But I feel like creativity is inextricably linked with curiosity, which is how I approach my coaching. That's the watchword for me in coaching is being curious. And so I feel like my creativity serves my clients in that I'm always looking for what's the next question? What's the interesting thing happening here? What could I be asking them about? What's something that neither of us know the answer to? And if that's not creativity, that's what we often are doing as creatives is looking at things that there aren't already answers to, if there are even answers to the questions that we're asking. So I think that place is when creativity really comes in for me nowadays. And then also I've noticed my version of creativity, and I don't know how tied this is to neurodivergence or not, but I'm pretty good at creating from scratch. I'm much better at improving. So my creativity really comes across if somebody, I'm collaborating with somebody and they say this, and I say yes and we yes and a lot. And I love that sort of collaborative creativity. Yeah. It's not just me in isolation, which gives one version of it. But I think when we come together in community and in collaboration, that creativity just grows exponentially. If you're with the right people, if you're with the people who can do that with you, right? And I do find that's more likely to happen with other neurodivergent folks than not, because our brains are more aligned in terms of just how they're set up to work and how they're wired. But that has been sort of a joy in the last year or two is that finding that creativity in collaboration, creativity in community, and creating new things for our academy, for my clients, for I'm a past president of International Coach Federation Austin. Even in that, the new programs that we created and the new opportunities we created for our members. So I think there's creativity all over the place, and it's a matter of noticing it and also looking for the places where you can be doing it in collaboration. That'll just be exponentially even more creative. I feel like I said the word creative or creativity a lot. I suppose we're doing today. But I'm like, stop saying that word.
Well, that's what today's about. But that's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. That's sorry for calling you Kate. I'm so bad with names. Yeah, but you come up with some really interesting things there about how collaboration can be amazing. If you get two neurodivergent minds together, you just have exponential possibilities there. We could solve all the problems of the world, climate change and everything else. Surely we could, couldn't we? I would have thought so. Yeah. Anything else about your creativity that you want to add? I mean, there's obviously the business sense and bringing the dance to it and the collaboration, which are really lovely points.
Well, I think what you just said about how we can solve all the problems of the world. This is why I love working with twice exceptional people, because our very brightest people are most likely to solve those problems with their creativity, with their neurodivergent creativity. And so helping them sort of shed some of the stuff that might be holding them back is my creative contribution to solving those problems in a way, if that makes sense. So I love that part of my work.
So you're sort of facilitating other people in their creativity and in their innovation and so on, which is a real kind of joy and a delight as well.
Yeah. So basically, I'm saving the world just through other people.
God, I mean, it's selfless acts, isn't it? It's just brilliant selfless acts. Thank you for your service. So I think Kate mentioned your socials and things earlier, but are there any things you want to add to that? Events coming up or anything you'd like to tell us about?
Sure. So my private practice, if anyone's interested in doing some coaching with me, is called Nerd Coach. My website is www.nerdcoa.ch. I'll put that in text for Morwenna. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I occasionally write on LinkedIn a series called If I'm So Smart, Why Can't I? Which I think a lot of us neurodivergent, especially twice exceptional folks, have that thought all the time. If I'm so smart, why can't I put my laundry away? Is the current one that I'm struggling with. And then there's also our Neurodiversity Coaching Academy, www.neurodiversitycoachingacademy.com. And you spell it right the first time you get a cookie. That is where we have all of our master classes listed. We're also offering mentor coaching coming up. You can sign up for our newsletter there. We have things going on all week for Neurodiversity Coaching Week, including Noodling with Neurodiversity Coaching Academy. You can see Morwenna featured on that from our Monday release. And we are also giving away free access to one of our already done classes per day. So check us out for that.
Awesome. So much good stuff coming from you guys this week in Neurodiversity Celebration Week. Thank you so much, Tracy. That was absolutely wonderful. And I was joining today and thinking, oh my God, we've got 3 coaches in the session today. What's the collective noun for a group of coaches? And if anybody knows that, I will give a prize. I thought maybe it would be a navel gaze or a reflection of, or I don't know. If anybody has a good collective noun, or maybe there's one in existence already. I didn't get time to Google before we joined. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anybody have any thoughts? What could that be? What could it be? A collective of neurodivergence?
I think with coaches, it just have to be a fleet.
A fleet? Yeah, that's very literal-minded neurodivergence.
Yeah, sorry.
Isn't it? Bum bum. Yeah. What would be a collective noun?
A curiosity of coaches.
A curiosity of coaches. Or maybe a curiosity of neurodivergent people could be good.
A creative of neurodivergent people, given that what we're talking about?
There we go. If there wasn't a collective noun before, there is now. And if we want to add to that, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat, and because we might be able to come up with something even more amazing that captures that. What an amazing group of people. So, does somebody want to come in? Go ahead if you wanted to. No, thank you. What an amazing group of people, and what different skills and creativity we all bring to the world. And my God, I mean, it's just a big love fest for me about how amazing you all are, and hearing that. And as I said, if you haven't already shared your socials, make sure you ping them to me, and I will put them on the page, and I'll put them on the page for the session as well. And I'm just going to ask if we have any questions. There may be questions out there, and perhaps I can't see them because I'm learning the tech as we go. Can anybody see any questions that haven't come up? Or maybe there are questions that you've... Sorry?
No, we haven't seen any questions.
No. Well, either nobody's listening and they don't care, or they've got everything they need and we've answered everything they need. But as I said, I'll share all our socials. We'll be out there. You can find us anywhere in the world. We're all easily available. Yeah, I can't see any questions. But sometimes we, as we record the session, questions come in later. So if any questions come in, I will forward them to you, and I'll make sure, as I said, all our socials are mentioned there. As I said, I've been learning as I go, so it's been a learning curve for me to try to make this work and get the right people on the screen, and it hasn't always worked perfectly, but that's kind of fine, isn't it? You know, I mean, that's life. It's messy, and that's how we create and how we learn and how we try things, and we mess things up, you know, and as long as nobody dies, it's all good. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for joining my lovely, lovely panel. Big hugs to all of you, and looking forward to seeing some of you who are coming over next month, I think it is, isn't it? Autism Awareness or Acceptance Week, month, day. There's all sorts of days coming up. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your Neurodiversity Celebration Week. There are loads of events on the official site, so do go and have a look there, and also tons of unofficial events too. And it's quite interesting to look at some of the unofficial events because they can be the voices that don't get heard so much. So I really recommend you look out for some of those as well. So huge thank you again to my panel. If anybody has any closing words, do feel free to jump in. Otherwise, we will close things down.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the viewers that never stop dreaming. That's the thing, because I always give my example, because you will have a struggle in your life, but that's not the end. If you are strong and if you are neurodivergent, you can reach your target goals, and then you will understand how excellent you are. So thank you, Marwana, and thank you all the people
Thank you,
joining.
Shah. That's a really lovely message to end on. Thank you so much. Keep going, because there are people out there who can help you, whether it's with, you know, the admin, crazy admin of your life, or your mental health, or your whatever else it is. There are people out there who get it, who can support you, and never stop being brilliant. Thank you so much. We'll end the stream now. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thanks, Moana.
Thanks.